I think the next challenge is in terms of how the technology vendors are responding to this emerging risk, and that in itself creates a risk in terms of technology evolution, and therefore people, most of the technology vendors having a roadmap in terms of how they will give a robust and complete comprehensive solution to address the security and controls that needs to be implemented on mobile devices. And so we would be in a transition phase in terms of managing these controls in the meantime, especially if you are adopting use of mobile devices for your corporate access in a big way. I think the third challenge really is in terms of you're making really convenient for rogue employees to exfiltrate data. And I think what was a little difficult and challenging for somebody to carry a laptop or even have a laptop to actually go and give it to your competition and actually have those customer information exfiltrated to the competition. Now what's going to happen is that it's going to be more convenient because they are going to be personal devices, and if you are empowering your corporate and your employees to have that information for them to do business and do cross-selling and various, there's going to be a customer data available for employees to consume for the corporate use. But at the same time, the rogue employees could actually exploit that situation and therefore take that information and extend it to your and give it to your competition, and that will create a big risk for you, which is very difficult to control, because it is something which is very easy. So I think these are some of the examples of emerging risks that I see in terms of use of mobile and mobile devices, consumerization when it comes to employees. In terms of how one could react and one could respond to these risks, I think it's clearly a challenge for security professionals to respond to this change, which is obviously clearly enabling the business and productivity. But at the same time, how is security world responding to it? And one of the things that one could look at is in terms of a containerization approach, which is really trying to create two different profiles of how an employee would actually use the device while connecting to corporate infrastructure versus trying to work for his personal usage. And what I mean by that is trying to partition the device and create a pseudo firewall in between the two compartments within the same device. So wherein if you're logging on to your corporate world, you have full access to all the applications and use of and consumption and storage of the data. But it cannot be extended and it cannot be really downloaded to your personal device for you to actually intentionally or unintentionally expose it to unauthorized use or tampering or changes. So I think that approach is evolving. I think 30% to 40% of the organizations are looking that as a strategy towards addressing their solution for the risks that are posed by use of consumer devices. And it also gives you an advantage of empowering the employees to really use the devices with all the features and facilities and services available for the personal use. So it really works both ways. I think the other thing is in terms of how you restrict and control the use of your applications on the mobile devices. What I mean by that is in terms of not really going it full bang, but really have a cautious and guarded approach towards opening of applications. And what I mean by that is you could focus on productivity apps, but those apps which are not high on confidentiality integrity, so that you can empower your staff to really use those productivity apps to improve the turnaround time and decision-making process within the organization. But at the same time, do not expose core applications, transaction processing applications having privacy or confidentiality requirements to be really something which is exposed. So an example of that could be you could look at approval system, which is used by a lot of your C executives and your managers and senior management to really improve the pace in which decisions are made. But at the same time, it does not really expose too much of customer data, so it will significantly improve the turnaround time. Similarly, email access, which does not really have too much of confidential data or transaction data, but something which helps people to really receive fast information and therefore take decisions. So some of these examples are good examples of empowering and enabling enterprise apps to consumer devices used by your employees, but at the same time something which will not expose your organization to those risks. So I think these are a couple of examples by which you could address the risk to a large extent. And I guess because it's emerging, one should engage with the various stakeholders and communities to make sure that we implement the right technology and the right process to address the risk. Yeah, so I think the question on mobility and use of mobility in the context of India, I would say that there are two aspects. One is in terms of employee use, and other is in terms of consumer usage. Now, I think the consumer part is really split into two. One is reaching out to every single person with a mobile device, and a lot of mobile devices in India are not smartphone devices. So therefore the protocols such as USSD and simple to use protocols are actually will gain prominence for social inclusion, and actually it's seen more as a channel to have financial inclusion within the country, where you have a huge penetration of mobile devices as compared to bank accounts being given to the employees, so given to the normal citizen of the country. So I think that's something which is significant, and different whether it's government initiatives or banks or various other telcos are leveraging this penetration of mobile devices to ensure that we reach out to those underprivileged and unbankable citizens in terms of getting them access, and mobile money is a reality. So these products are now available in the country. I think the second thing is in terms of how do you leverage and how do you have m-commerce being leveraged by virtue of the fact that we have 3G, 4G networks now coming up, and the middle income group being able to have access to mobile devices, and that I think area is now opening up. I think it's not in pace with what's happening in the Western world, but it's certainly something which is growing very fast. And so banks like us have most of our product offerings that we give on online is also available on mobile devices now, and so that is going to be the channel of future, and we are leveraging it and seeing it that way to improve the growth within the same commerce.